Hello and welcome to the channel. If you've never been here before, my name is Erin. Today's video, I wanted to discuss 10 morning and evening habits that could be keeping you from reaching your goals and reaching success. It is really easy to start getting on social media and to see people's postings on Facebook or everything that's put out on Twitter and Instagram, and new things on YouTube to see, and even finding news sites, anything. There's so many things to look at and scroll through on the internet these days that it's easy to get consumed in it. But when we get consumed in it, it also starts to affect our sleep and our daily habits, especially when we do it first thing in the morning or right before bed at night.
Sometimes it can be so hard to turn our phones off at night, but it can keep us awake for way longer than we're liking to, and it's harder to wake up in the morning.
And I am just as guilty of getting on the internet and scrolling through social media, and especially watching YouTube. I'm addicted to YouTube, but you know, it can be very distracting, especially when we're trying to get things done in the morning, and in the evening time it can just keep us from falling asleep when we'd like to. So it's best to stay off of it as much as you possibly can before going to bed and when you first wake up. Number 2, drinking caffeine too late in the evening or late at night. So I have been notorious for drinking caffeine way too late and cannot fall asleep for so long. I'll lay there and lay there and lay there. So this one hits close to home. I have a green tea addiction. So yummy, especially with blueberry. But anyways, so drinking caffeine late in the evening can keep you awake for way longer than you'd like to, and when you wake up the next day you feel way more tired and then need more caffeine to keep going for the next day. Whether it's soda or coffee or tea, anything with caffeine, just make sure you have enough time before you're going to bed to help you sleep better in the evening, so that way you can wake up feeling rested the next day. I found at 12 o'clock is usually a good cutoff time, or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and usually that gives my body enough time to wind down, but every person's different, so find what works best for you and see what helps. But yeah, caffeine is definitely a good stimulant for the brain, and if you're ever trying to wake up, it's great, but late at night, not so much.
Number 3, drinking alcohol. Even though it feels like we're falling asleep quickly, it can actually cause us to feel very restless while we're sleeping and cause us to feel really tired the next day, which can make us feel very unmotivated and cause us to be very unproductive.
This is something I know all too well, and you know, sometimes it seems like a good idea, and then once you start trying to go to sleep at night and you feel terrible the next day, it seems like you made a mistake. Number 4, going to bed and getting up every day at a different time. It's very difficult for our bodies to get used to a schedule if we keep switching our times that we wake up every day or when we go to bed. And it also makes it harder for our bodies to naturally fall asleep or to naturally wake up in the morning. And so when you can keep a set schedule every day and go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, it gives our bodies a chance to naturally start waking up and falling asleep. And that helps with staying focused the next day and not feeling so tired. And after a while, does not seem like such a hard thing to do when you're waking up.
Which leads me to number 5, which is hitting that snooze button in the morning when you first wake up.
Even though sometimes it seems like you just need to push that snooze button to get a little bit more sleep, it can actually be more harmful than good. And it makes it harder for our bodies to fully wake up in the morning. It's best to try to stretch for a little bit instead of pushing the snooze button and falling back to sleep. it's nice to be able to get a little more sleep every morning, but if you're having trouble waking up in the morning, maybe it's because you're going to bed too late. If you're really struggling to wake up in the morning, try sitting up on your bed and just stretching, or at least if you're sitting up, it can cause your body to at least start pumping the blood a little bit more through your body. But definitely stretching is a good way to start when you wake up in the morning. Sometimes having natural light coming in can help you wake up, but it can also keep you from falling asleep at night. So if you have too much light, make sure that that's not keeping you from going to sleep at night. Sometimes if you have a fan running, or if you have just some kind of white noise in the background in your, I don't know why I said background. If you have white noise in the room when you're trying to sleep, or keeping the temperature at a good cool setting, can help you fall asleep better too. So if you're struggling to stay asleep or fall asleep, and that's why you have to keep hitting that snooze button in the morning, try to figure out those things first and see if those are keeping you from sleeping well. So number 6 is not finishing important tasks or projects that you may have to do before bedtime. And the reason that could be a problem is because it can make us feel anxious. It could keep us from falling asleep because we know it's something that we needed to do. And even though we say, oh, we'll just have to do it the next day, it can cause us to wake up feeling overwhelmed because we have added on an extra thing that we need to take care of on top of everything else we may have to do that day. It's best to try to make sure that you have all important tasks completed, or at least far enough along to where you're not stressing about it or feeling anxious when you're going to bed. Sometimes it's hard to fit everything in a day, but if it's something super important that you know that has to be done, it's just best to try to get it done before bed so you're not sitting there dwelling on it and it's keeping you from sleeping anyways. So best to just get it over with. Now if it's something that's going to take you obviously too long, that's going to make you not be able to sleep anyways, then I guess you kind of have to weigh out the pros and cons on that one. Even though exercise is good for us and it causes endorphins to release, which is a good thing, it can also cause us to get an energy boost and it wakes us up more. Especially later in the day, you know, if we don't have enough time to wind down after we've exercised, then we tend to be wide awake from it. So it's best to try to exercise more in the morning time or during the day, and try not to do it in the evening.
And if you have no other choice but to work out in the evening time, it's best to try to do something that's not going to raise your heart rate up too much, so that way you can wind down quick.
So number 8 is eating late at night. And sometimes it's really easy to get those late night cravings, or, you know, start munching out before bedtime. So, you know, when we go to sleep at night, our bodies don't burn calories like they normally would, and it's harder for our bodies to digest the food if we're eating late in the evening. It can cause our sugar levels to go up, and it can cause our blood pressure to rise depending on what we're eating as well. So if you notice that when you're eating later in the evening, if you're having more trouble sleeping, see if the two maybe are causing some of your sleeping problems. Eating too late in the evening, we're wondering, well, why can't we burn some of the fat off that we're trying to burn off? Especially when we're working out so hard the next day. You know, maybe it's because we're eating too late in the evening. I've definitely had an issue with that in the past, and I've gotten my schedule a lot more under control by doing intermittent fasting. You know, that's not for everybody, but I have found that it helps me to digest better, and I don't wake up having as many issues in the morning with my stomach, or, you know, waking up throughout the night because of eating too much salt and feeling just like my blood pressure is getting out of control or something. So if you do notice something, you know, maybe that's something to consider that could be keeping you from, you know, feeling rested the next day or falling asleep at night. So number 9 is drinking enough water throughout the day. So that is a daytime issue, but what can happen is in the evening, if we didn't drink enough water throughout the day, we may feel like we need to chug a bunch of water down in order to not feel so dehydrated. And then once you start going to sleep, you're waking up all night having to run to the bathroom. Or when you wake up the next day just feeling super dehydrated and then having to try to catch back up on drinking enough water. And sometimes it's really hard to remember to drink enough water. I usually try to carry some water around with me, but even then, you know, if you get distracted, it's really hard to remember sometimes. So I like to try reminding myself or setting an alarm to tell myself throughout the day, you need to drink water. That way it's easy to remember that you need to do it, so that way you're not having to stress about, did I get enough water maybe before going to bed, because then you're feeling dehydrated. So number 10 is going to bed feeling upset or waking up just in a bad mood. And I know this sounds a little cliche, but hear me out. So when we are not happy and we're feeling very down or very stressed or anxious, worried.
When we're up all night worrying about things, it can make us not get a great sleep at all because our minds are constantly racing and it's hard to shut that down at night, and then we wake up feeling exhausted the next day.
So if you can find things that can make you happy before bedtime or to be grateful about.
Whenever we can tell ourselves something positive or to be something grateful about, it can put us in a better mood and help us fall asleep and keep our minds from racing as much at night, and can help us have a much better day throughout the day, which can actually help us be more productive and keeps our stress levels down.
Sometimes it's hard to find things to be happy about, especially if we're just having so many bad things happening. If you're having something traumatic happening in your life, obviously it's not going to be an easy thing to do. If you can find a way to be happy, it's amazing how much better it makes you feel throughout the day, which makes you feel less anxious. It also puts you in a better headspace at night if you can keep thinking of positive things and keep thinking of ways to keep yourself happier. It really helps you to be more productive on things, and you can fall asleep quicker because you're not going down that rabbit hole of bad events. And maybe that's a weird terminology, but you know, you want to be able to try to stay positive and happy as much as possible, and it really does make a difference. Well, I really hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you learned something new and can use it to help you fall asleep quicker and stay asleep better at night and wake up feeling great the next day. And if you did enjoy this, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up. It really does help support the channel. And if you'd like to subscribe, make sure to hit the subscription button down below and the notification bell, so that way you can get notified every time I post a new video. Well, until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.